Everybody, Nintendo has decided to remind you that, hey, they can do terrible things too. This is a cow's opinion, where I go over the latest and greatest and honestly just confusing and weird in this case situations that happen in the gaming news. So make sure to hit that like button. You can subscribe, you can post comments, interact with us, do whatever you want. This is just here for you, your information, and for fun. And guys, as quoted in one of these stories, it's that time of year when Nintendo wants to remind everybody that, hey, we can ruin your day too. Nintendo has released their new tournament guidelines that I really want to talk about because they are really dumb. I was interacting with one of my a couple of people, including, I believe, Westtown HD over on the Twitters. You can follow me down there if you like. And he was like super confused, and people were explaining to him that, hey, Nintendo has new community tournament guidelines. So we're going to talk about those, guys. And I've got several pages open, but just so I can make sure that I have everything correct, I want to jump between them a little bit. But basically, starting mid-November this year, 2023, Nintendo's new tournament organization guidelines will commence. Now, Nintendo has some games that people are going to like to play through. F-Zero had that recent 99 retro upgrade, so we may or may not see some racing tournaments for that, which I think is really cool. And of course, everyone loves Mario Kart, but let's not kid ourselves. The big daddy of them all is Super Smash Brothers. And that is the one that it just has massive legs. And Nintendo has just never understood how much the community loves it because they have the weirdest guidelines ever. So posted yesterday on the Nintendo UK, Japan, and North American websites covering all the major gaming regions pretty much. They have set strict guidelines on all community tournaments. In other words, ones not officially run or sponsored by Nintendo. According to these guidelines, they are now non-profit events, and these tournaments are now limited to 200 people. You cannot have a prize set above $5,000 USD. You may not have sponsors. You cannot use modified versions, and you are not allowed to sell food, beverages, or merch. Now, look, I understand, in some really petty way, I kind of get the fact that, you don't want me to buy a t-shirt, because I'm going to show up with a shirt, but if I'm going to a tournament with 200 participants, it's going to take a while. The cow's going to want a beverage at some point. Do I still get a chair? Daddy Nintendo, do I still get a chair? Apparently, maybe not. If they put the tournament logo on the chair, I'm not allowed that because it might be considered merch. What the heck is going on? Now, they're not banning them, but they are also requiring commercial events to get special licenses directly from Nintendo. And it's up to their sole discretion. Not surprising, but look, Nintendo is probably because they're more focused on the family market, they're just, of the big three console makers, they've had the worst track record in tournaments and sponsors and other kinds. Sony and Xbox are a lot more hands-off. Nintendo, probably as a result of them wanting to make sure they maintain their family image, is very hands-on, and it is terrible. So we have some tweets. Here's just going over the highlights, which is limit size of registration fees to. There's a deep Q&A thing that I've dived into that talks about how you don't have to lose money, but you're not allowed to make money. But yeah, the registration fees can't go above 2,000 yen, which look, it's okay. $13 USD is not a lot. But it also limits since you've also limited the size of an offline tournament to 200 entrants or less, that means that you've put a cap, because you remember, no merch, no food, no beverage sales. You can't make any money and you can't have sponsors. So 200 times 13 is $2,600. That limits the size of the venue I can run my offline tournament in, and that limits the crowd I can invite to come see it, make the tournament bigger and better. No cash prizes, sponsor monetization restrictions. There's an English version. Seems like an approval is needed if you tend to go past 200 entrants for tournaments in Japan, and you probably still have those limits on no money makers, no official sponsors, and registration fees. Not safe for work, Nintendo. They are like a 5-year-old screaming for attention at all times when it comes to competitive Smash. We also have DeBuzz tweeting, yes, it is that time of year when Nintendo remembers to ruin the day of every Smash player. Hungrybox, who is one of the 5 gods of Smash, is going to keep running his own tournaments. He says, I'm running Coinbox. I'm going to keep running it January, February, March, April. I will run it every not safe for work Mario weekend until I receive word from them directly. I'm not going to stop out of fear. They have to come to me directly with the document. Until then, I'm calling their bluff. People seem to like it. Now, people have long criticized Nintendo for failing to back its competitive community the way others do, especially with, if you've ever seen like Capcom with Street Fighters, the makers of Mortal Kombat, how about the makers of Injustice? They love the tournaments, and because it gets people to play, and when people play, they interact with the game more and they play the game more. Now, you may remember that Nintendo tried to ban the Melee Finals from being broadcast at EVO 2013, but backed down because of a massive backlash. But Nintendo has been accused of shutting down lots of tournaments over third-party fan-developed services and modifications to the game. And then after Sony bought EVO in 22, Nintendo pulled Smash from the event entirely, which is why you don't see Smash at EVO anymore. Now, I think we've talked about that on the channel before, but the company was supposed to have its own Smash Brothers League by Panda Global. However, there was that massive cancellation last year of the Video Game Boot Camp Smash World Tour event in 2022, because many accused Nintendo and Panda of colluding to squash competing tournaments. So it wasn't enough for Nintendo to try to make their own league. They were going to make it to where nobody could play Smash competitively either. And in a amazing turn of events, the boycott of Panda's League led it to disband at the beginning of this year, because players said, I'm not playing for your league because screw you. Now, after Nintendo announced its new tournament guidelines today, someone has leaked a Panda Global pitch deck for its Smash Brothers League, and it appears to point toward a generous collaboration between Panda Global and Nintendo, the type of competitive circuit pros have long asked for, with sizable payments to host organizers to help out. So yeah, here is the deck that Panda has shared with what they wanted. Now, this occurs right after Port Priority 8 in Seattle, Washington, one of the many tournaments that will be banned under the new rules. Nintendo is not commenting right now, but before I give you my opinion, I want to talk about something else that was brought to my attention in research, because that was the Kotaku argue, but Video Game Chronicles also has one more interesting aspect about it. And it's a little aspect, but it is kind of interesting to see, because as highlighted by Ariva, I apologize if I have your name pronounced wrong from Twitter, but Nintendo's new rules don't just outline third-party software, which I kind of get. It's your game. You want people who watch these tournaments to know that you can actually do it in the game. But they also outlaw third-party controllers, which excludes anybody with an accessibility need. Sometimes some people just can't do what most people can, but they're all special controllers and such that allow people to play the games. But now you're not allowed a third-party controller. You know those expensive ones you can get? You've got to use the Switch Joy-Cons like everybody else, or the official Nintendo one. In theory, this means that any controller that has been modded can't be used during a tournament without, if it's not a stock licensed Nintendo controller. And I don't know. Well, she actually expands. If you are not familiar with game accessibility, this might not seem like a big deal. But the reason why it is because many disabled gamers, like herself, use third-party accessories to be able to game. This can be anything from controllers you can use with your feet, tools to make the game work with a straw you can blow in to move your character, all the way to a 3D printed specialized equipment that lets you use a regular Joy-Con or Pro controller. I can somewhat understand Nintendo's need to protect their IP, but this is taking it so far that it would exclude children, youth, and grown-ups that need accessibility to play games like everyone else. Now, and the article concludes reminding us that Microsoft and Sony have also released accessibility controllers. I don't think Nintendo has, which is why it's such a big deal. It's not like she or anybody else who has a disability can just go get the official one and still play in the tournament. So what is the cow's opinion? And before we get into that, let me just say, hey, thanks for watching. More and more of you have been watching. More and more of you have been commenting. More and more of you have been subscribing. I want this place to be somewhere where we can just laugh at how dumb I am in games sometimes, or we can have really fun moments and good in these discussions. So thank you for that. My opinion is this is just petty as hell, to keep it safe for work. I mean, I get Nintendo just does not understand grassroots, does not understand third-party tournaments, does not understand. This is the equivalent of if the NFL decided, you know what? No more arena football, no more high school football. The only football that you're going to be allowed to play is NFL football. Which, in ways, they do with their video game accessibility. This is just literally Nintendo trying to squash anything they don't directly. They don't directly control in what they feel is the correct Nintendo-approved way. And I get it. Part of the reason why we have this issue with Nintendo and not Microsoft and Sony is that Microsoft and Sony have never tried to really brand themselves as the family-friendly, everyone is welcome. They don't brand themselves not that way, but a lot of their first-party games are, for 18 and up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nintendo has always proudly planted its flag on that E for everyone mountain. And you know what? Looking at examples just of the Smash poster of all of their IPs that they've had on Nintendo's, they do a pretty dadgum good job. But this is not good. You already can't play in EVO, the biggest fighting tournament out there. And let me tell you something. To me, and maybe a lot of my viewers, maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe not even into fighting games, and you just don't care. But a lot of people do. And the fact that Smash is so big, despite Nintendo not understanding the phenomenon they have on their hands, is very impressive. But you need to have tournaments. You need to not overreach, and you need to let players do cool stuff like organize massive off-brand line tournaments. You need to be able to freaking sell a hot dog and a soda at these tournaments. 200 people at 5 freaking... only 4 people get to play the game at once in this tournament. So even if you just do single elimination, your first round is going to be 50 games of Smash. Do you have any idea how long it takes to do 50 games of Smash? Let me tell you, it ain't fast unless you've got uber players seated in every single game. And even then, the tournaments rounds after it are not going to go that fast because all the elites go fight each other. I don't understand the purpose of limiting how many players you can have, even though 200 does sound a lot. Definitely don't understand why you're saying your registration fee. Why do you care? Why does Nintendo care about the registration fee? Because they don't want people to make a lot of money doing this. They want to limit the size and scope of non-official Nintendo. Remember, your top prize is limited to $5,000. Your registration fee does not cover that. You're not allowed to sell merch, you're not allowed to sell food, and you're not allowed to have sponsors. They are literally making it to where, hey, these will be like really small tournaments, but eventually we'll have our big stuff. We'll figure it out. They really just need to let the tournament scene do it and stop this. I mean, Yoshi P is already... Not Yoshi P, excuse me. I was watching the Final Fantasy 14. But Sakurai has said he's done. He's not making any more Smash. He made the most amazing iteration. Got all these different characters from all these different games. Daddy Sakurai was amazing. But now, who's going to be in charge of Smash? And how is Nintendo setting them up for failure like this? But that's basically it, you guys. I think Nintendo's being really dumb, really petty, and just not understanding what it's going to take to run tournaments anymore. Because remember, they tried to starve everyone out with Panda Global, and that died real quick. They had to disband. So, what do you think, guys? Do you play Smash? Do you like it when Nintendo does this? I don't think any of you are going to say yes to that. I need you to go down in the comments. I need you to start the discussions. Keep them polite, because we're mad at Nintendo and not each other. And again, understand protecting your IP, sure. But this is just short-sighted and dumb, and there's nothing wrong with letting your fan base build up your game and do the work for you. And then, yeah, why can't you sponsor these tournaments, Nintendo? If you want to be a part of this, why don't you just find, here's the 5 biggest ones, let's sponsor them for a year, and let's see how it goes, and let's talk to them about what their needs are and everything. But that's what I think they should do. But you know what I think you should do? Oh, I love a good segue, because you can play more games! Games are awesome, and you deserve awesome. I'll see you next time.